Hey friends, you're locked into the Ukrainian Roots Radio Наш Голос. I'm your host, Anton Lysenko. If you watch us on YouTube, please smash the like button and subscribe. Next 15 minutes we spent with popular Ukrainian, Polish, and of course Canadian Sablin duo of Vivien and Norman Nawrocki. Recently, they released the new album, Борщ, with 12 instrumental folk songs. Hello, Norman and Vivian, and welcome to the studio of Ukrainian Roots Radio Наш Голос. Let's start from your new album, Борщ. I love Борщ by itself. I like to eat Борщ, and I promise next time when I eat Борщ, I will be doing this along with the music from your album, Борщ. But honestly, how did you choose the name Борщ for your new album?
Well, how do we choose Borscht, Vivian? We grew up on Borscht. Mama made Borscht.
Yeah, and it's a mixture of our music, which, like Borscht, is a mixture of different vegetables. And it's just kind of a mix of different songs. So some of the songs are Ukrainian, some are Polish, some are Eastern European. And it's something that we hope everyone can relate to. And we're hoping, because everyone knows and loves Borscht, so there might be a similarity there.
To make real Борщ, we use different vegetable ingredients, then we boil everything and mix everything, and here we are. What do you actually mix to make your music? In my understanding, it's Ukrainian, Polish, and Canadian heritage.
Yeah, Canadian-Ukrainian. It's Canadian-Ukrainian, a Canadian-Ukrainian Polish heritage, because our mother was Ukrainian, our father was Polish. So we grew up with pierogis and perehe, but always the borscht was the standard. So the main ingredient was love, of culture, love of music, love of playing the music as well, love of learning the music, and love of sharing the music. As people sometimes hear this music for the first time, they go, "What's this crazy music? We want to dance to it." It's a part of our cultural heritage.
Very much so. And for me, a part of it is this is music that we heard growing up. We had family relatives who played the music, and I have very, very fond memories of going to visit family back in Manitoba, where we would go to Ukrainian weddings, dinners, celebrations, dances, and hearing this music. It was always a wonderful time listening to the music. It was so uplifting and energizing. And the fact that we're playing it brings back that memory of the joy that, I felt, and I know Norman felt at the time when we first heard the music.
To write the music, do you take lots of inspiration from your roots or from your childhood memories?
Well, it's our roots, Beats can have deep roots, so does this music for us. And it, growing up as children, it didn't mean much to us at the time, but in years later, the music became more important, more significant, had even more meaning. And today, it's even more important for us to acknowledge that, to play it, to honor it, and to share it with people, and to show, look, Ukrainian culture is rich. This music is ancient, goes back hundreds of years. It's folk, it's traditional, it's part of who we are, part of our identity, part of Ukrainian identity, and we're proud of this music as well. We're proud to be able to play it.
And it's partly also keeping it alive, keeping the culture alive, keeping the music alive. And music is as we all know, a universal language. Everyone can relate to it, and it makes me feel proud to know that this is something we can share.
What is the main idea of your album, and what song is the most important for you?
I don't think there's any one particular song that's more important. They're all important to us, and in different ways. Some of them have connections to immediate family. Some of them have more connections with our mother, more connections with our father, more connections with our visit to Ukraine, because we were in Ukraine, to visit family there and friends. So some of it reminds us of that. Was to give people, our first album was recorded live. It was a live album recording at a Ukrainian a benefit for humanitarian aid for Ukraine. But this album was, let's share something with people that's a studio-based album, recorded in the studio, mostly.
One of your songs in your new album is Ukrainian Wedding March. How many times did you hear this song on a wedding? And maybe do you have some special story which is related to this song?
And there are songs that we kind of added our own arrangement or rearranged. And so we could both play the song and bring it together to give it the fullness that we could both contribute to the song.
I believe you play on many weddings ceremonies in Canada.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, many, many times.
Maybe do you have any story related?
Well, in one small village in southwestern Manitoba, Oakburn, Manitoba, it's called, in the west of Manitoba, the southwest, our family is from that area. And there was one wedding I remember, 3 Ukrainian bands playing. It started on the Friday night, continued the Saturday into the Sunday. We were just kids, but I remember hearing that song in particular played Friday night, to welcome the guests. And then they played it again Saturday morning to welcome the guests back. Then they played it again Sunday morning to welcome the guests back to the hall. It was a big hall that was rented, and the tables were full of food. And as kids, it was just wow, all these cakes and cookies and fantastic dishes. But that music I'll never forget. It was just one of the repertoire that they played over and over again.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The food. I remember the food at the celebrations, the delicious halupchi and the borscht and the kupasa and the paraha and the neshliki. It was just wonderful. But also for me, I remember as a very small girl, not quite knowing how to dance and kind of learning how to dance as my uncles would see me kind of twirling by myself by the wall, and they just grab my hand and I'd be twirling around, and wonderful memories of that, which is a lot of fun.
So how does the wedding celebration looks like today in Canada? Is it the same like in Ukraine or Eastern Europe when everybody from the village come into the house and celebrate the wedding during the 2-3 days or maybe even the week?
It's different. I've played different Ukrainian weddings with some of my other bands across Canada, in Saskatchewan. I played in New Brunswick. I played in Newfoundland for different friends. And it's not quite the same as it was, generations ago. Certainly not the same as it is in Ukraine. People have a little less money, so they have to make do with that. And they don't pay for 3 bands, let alone 1 band. They hire a DJ just to play music. And, the budget is smaller, so there's maybe not quite as much food, but people still eat well. And the celebration isn't as long. It's not like 3 days, but it's one long night of partying. But there's definitely been a change, because we remember like our uncles and aunts telling us about the old days when the wedding never stopped. It just went on day and night and day and night, and the band would take a break, but then people get up, dance, drink, eat, let's party. It would go nonstop. So those were crazy, crazy years. So things have changed, quieted down a little bit. I know people who would love to be able to hire a Ukrainian band, but there is no Ukrainian band in that town, in that city, in that part of the province, wherever they are. But I think now, with the influx of new Ukrainians, that's going to change. We'll probably see more and more Ukrainian musical ensembles being formed, especially by younger people. And I think there'll be more wedding bands available. People could just dial up the nearest wedding band, it'll be easier than before. Because once upon a time, I mean, I remember in Montreal, there was like a dozen Ukrainian wedding bands. Vancouver, same sort of thing. In Winnipeg, there's 100 wedding bands. Victoria, I'm not sure. Maybe there was 2 or 3. But that changed over time as generations passed on. But I think with the revival of the newest generation, you'll see more.
What musical instruments do you use to create your music?
Yeah, well, we have a few. We originally started out with Norman playing the violin, and we grew up very musical as children. I played the piano. Norman was playing the violin, and we would play duets with each other and sometimes with her father. So as we became adults, so we both took different pathways, and Norman continued his musical and creative element of his personality and continued to perform. I took a different route. But then within the last couple of years, I had this question for Norman. I just said, why don't we try playing together? And that was mainly because I started playing the ukulele in addition to having played the piano. So the music now we play, we have the ukulele, the violin. Some songs I'm playing the keyboard or the piano. We've introduced drums much more recently. I play the recorder. And we have tried the accordion at once or twice as well. Anything else, Norman? I think that was...
Well, in the studio, I'll add viola, I'll add cello. We'll also play with sampling looping pedals, and add other layers of music. But the next album after Borscht now, album number 3, will be even more experimental and featuring more different instruments, including Vivian's drumming.
How many songs have you done already for your new third album?
Well, we've just been experimenting, and we don't have anything ready yet, but we're aiming for next year for sure, for album number 3. And we have some ideas. It'll be a lot of new material. Sure.
Original
material, yes. Because we also compose our own Ukrainian, Canadian, Polish music.
Of course, we'll be waiting for your new songs, for your new third album, and we'll definitely have a chance to play it in our radio show, Наш Голос. And at the end, I want to ask you a question about the Ukrainian-Polish relationship. As you know, it was on very high level after the Russian full-scale invasion into Ukraine. Polish neighbors provide the incredible help for Ukraine, but through the time, the Ukrainian-Polish relationship become very complicated. What do you think? How can we improve it through the music and through the culture?
Well, we can only hope so that will happen. I know from friends in Ukraine and friends in Poland that the situation is tense sometimes. But I also know that there are a lot of musical exchanges between both countries. Union groups that are touring Poland. No Polish groups are touring Ukraine, but I do know Ukrainian musicians are coming into Poland and performing. There are festivals. There's the Folkowisko Festival on the border between Poland and Ukraine that brings in Ukrainian groups and tries to, build the bridges, solidify the bridges through music. And they're doing amazing work. And, we share so much, like the two cultures. I mean, we know growing up that we shared so much, sometimes we didn't know which is Ukrainian, which is Polish. Oh, it's all the same, The Borscht, there's no difference between the Polish Borscht and Ukrainian Borscht. It's all the same. This same thing with the music. The songs like Hey, 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 Sokoli, that song. That's Ukrainian. It's also Polish. So I think the music is going to, hopefully, fingers crossed, will help continue to build the bridge that's necessary between the two countries, among the people, because it's difficult now in Poland for Polish people and Ukrainian people. But music has a role to play. I mean, that's one of the roles in music, right, Vivian? In terms of helping heal. And
thank you, Norman and Vivian, for this wonderful conversation. Thank you for your time. And I want to remind our listener that you can listen us on Vancouver on AM 1320 every Saturday from 6 to 7 p.m. and in Nanaimo on 101.7 FM every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.